Well, today I'm wearing this beautiful shirt from Nigeria that was presented to me by some believers there when I was last in Africa, training various leaders from around Nigeria and around Africa. This was back in 2018 or 19, I believe, before COVID came. They honored me with this, and I'm wearing it today because I am preparing in just a few days to return to Africa for the first time since the lockdown of COVID-19. I'll be going to Zambia, and I'll be there for about a week. I'll be meeting again with leaders who work in pregnancy help centers all over Africa. I think there are people invited from 23 different African countries. There are also a number of pastors, I assume, are mostly from Zambia, but others who really want to learn how to teach our 4 questions to networks of churches throughout their own country. So I'll also be there to teach these pastors. In many ways, this trip to Africa could be one of the most impactful trips I will take this year. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, praying about it. And one of the things I wanted to do as far as preparing to go to Africa was to raise up examples of heroes or people that we would want to model ourselves after, who have done in previous generations what we're trying to do now. Because the call to rescue the innocent is not new. It's just our turn to carry it out and to answer that call. And it's not even new in Africa. It's just a turn for the African believers to take up the call that Scripture gives us to rescue the innocent and defend the weak and speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. So I really did some research, and one of the heroes I came up with was a man by the name of Ensor. He lived from 1788 to 1858. So he died, if you want to time frame it, pretty much right after our Civil War, right before our Civil War period of history in America. He became known as King Honesty II. He was the ruler of that tribe of people in a town called Creektown, which is in the Biafra region of Calabar. Calabar, we know today as Nigeria. And he was called King Honesty because he became very well known as a man of integrity, as a man who could be trusted. He ruled during a time of great transition along the Gold Coast of Africa. Remember, Africa for many, many decades, generations, was involved in the slave trade. Tribes would raid another tribe and capture slaves, capture children, capture little boys. Sometimes they even sold their own children to European slave traders. So the economy was built around slavery. But the slave trade had come to an end, and so much of this part of Africa was in a time of transition. King Honesty helped make that transition, creating new contracts and treaties with various traders and companies selling palm oil and basically generating new sources of income that were very, very beneficial to the people of that part of Nigeria. The other thing that he did that is so commendable is that he welcomed Western missionaries when many others did not. He really saw them as bringing resources and value to the culture, learning some of the things that Europeans did that were admirable and advanced and helped develop communities and families and economies and therefore prosperity. So he was very open to the missionaries that were going into Old Calabar, as it was called at that time. There's a debate among the things I've read whether he ever became a Christian. Some people seem to suggest he did. Others seem strongly to suggest that he never himself converted to Christ, but he did value the missionaries and the message of the gospel as something that would transform lives and therefore improve the community, and he was certainly right about that. He is historically connected to the most famous missionary of Nigeria, and certainly one of the most famous missionaries in all of African history and perhaps all of world missions today, and that is Mary Slessor. Here's a picture of Mary Slessor with a number of children. These are twins that she rescued from being killed. What you need to understand is that Mary Slessor today is highly honored and revered within Nigeria, in many ways called the mother of Calabar, because she arrived in this part of Nigeria where King Io had ruled, and immediately started to challenge the practice of twin killing in Africa and in Calabar. Now you need to understand that the killing of twins was a deep-rooted, demonic evil within the culture, like slavery itself. It was perceived that twins were the work of the devil, that something untoward was going on, and it must be evil. So often, the twins were immediately killed once they were born, and very often the mother was also killed, because if she had twins, by the help of demons, she herself needed to be killed. Another practice that was common, especially in the years before Mary arrived, was human sacrifice. Oftentimes, when a tribal leader died, at his funeral, other slaves were sacrificed so that the leader would not be lonely in the afterlife, for example. So these were deep-seated examples of the shedding of innocent blood that went back many generations within Old Calabar. And Mary is famous for coming against this practice, and she actually began to go out and do what we're doing today with abortion, that is to rescue the twins. Whenever she heard that twins were born, she would rescue them. And then, of course, she had to build a home for them. Then she had to adopt some of them herself and help others get adopted, or just provide a home for them to grow up in and to be trained and to be useful in society. So eventually, this ended the tradition of killing twins, and about the same time, this practice of human sacrifice was also ended. But here's the thing that I want to point out. 20 years before Mary Slessor arrived, King Io had already begun to use all his efforts and all his influence to bring about the end of both of those evil practices on his own watch. And in fact, I think we can go so far as to say that Mary's success, why she wasn't just kicked out or killed or opposed, is because King Io had already begun to take an axe to the root of these evils and chop away at them. King Io sounds to me like he was in many ways just a tremendous heroic figure in the history of Nigeria. He understood the slave trade. Because he grew up with it as a boy. He spent time on slave ships interacting as a young boy, learning English, understanding the business, understanding diplomacy, understanding trade. So by the time he assumed power from his father, he was in a position to know both the European mindset and his own people's mindset. He was a bridge between the two, and he was moving or receiving what was really valuable and good in European culture and bringing it into Nigerian culture, and at the same time upholding the traditions and customs of Nigeria that were worthy of preservation, family, life, business, honesty, and things like that. So I just wanted to introduce you to somebody that I had never heard of, We as Europeans and Americans probably won't hear about such people like this in Africa, but with a little digging, you find out that what we're doing today isn't really new. God has used people throughout history to do the work of rescuing the innocent on their watch. And this is not even new in Africa. It's just time for our African brothers and sisters to rise up and begin to emulate the heroes of their own culture that God has used. And I'm very excited about going to Zambia and meeting with our African brothers and sisters. And I welcome your support. I welcome your prayers. If you've got something to contribute, please do. And most definitely keep an eye on our updates that we'll be sending out by text messages every day. And if you want to sign up for our text messages, please go and visit our website, PassionLife.org, and you will find there an opportunity to sign up to receive a text message right on your phone. We'll send a little short video or a picture or an interview of some of the people that I meet in Africa. Very exciting times. Let's go forward with the gospel of life and go to the neediest places, and let's do it together, and let's do it in prayer. Thank you.